The dinner rush hums like an orchestra of silver and glass. Amara Noiju glides through the glistening aisles of the monarch room, her tray steady, though her spirit feels heavy. She's learned to smile through dismissive eyes, to speak softly enough to sound harmless. But tonight feels different. The air carries tension. Moneyed laughter at one end, whispered exhaustion at the other. Then he walks in. Charles Whitmore, all tailored confidence and careless entitlement, surrounded by his entourage. As Amara approaches the table, her accent, rich and melodic, fills the quiet between words. "Good evening, gentlemen," she says, but Charles smirks. "Good evening," she says. He mocks, twisting her vowels like a toy. His table bursts into laughter. A single second of humiliation stretches into eternity. Her hand trembles. Just slightly. Elijah's voice echoes in her memory. "Never let their cruelty define your worth." She steadies herself, eyes glistening but fierce. She steps back, her dignity intact though her heart aches like a drum in her chest. This will not end tonight. Not like this. Amara retreats behind the bar, heart hammering. Rosa follows, whispering, "Girl, don't let him get to you." Amara forces a smile, but her mind replays his laughter like a broken record. The accent he mocked is the same one her mother spoke blessings in. She wipes her eyes discreetly, straightens her apron, and whispers to herself. He doesn't know who he's laughing at. A quiet fire begins to burn. Elijah steps out from the kitchen, handing Amara a cup of tea instead of an order ticket. "They want to see your pain," he says softly. "Don't give it to them." His voice is calm but firm. She nods, gripping the cup like a lifeline. The scent of mint fills the space, cutting through the noise. She sips, eyes closed, gathering herself for the rest of the night. Back on the floor, Amara serves another table with flawless grace. Each step becomes an act of defiance, each smile a statement. "You cannot define me." Across the room, Charles catches her eye. For a flicker of a second, something unreadable passes between them, pity or confusion, but she looks away, unbothered. As closing time nears, Amara stands alone by the window. Rain falls outside, streaking the city in silver lines. She watches cars blur past, her reflection merging with the storm. Tonight reminded her how fragile dignity can seem, yet how unbreakable it becomes when tested. She whispers in Igbo, "My name means grace." And grace is not weakness. The morning sun pours through the blinds of Amara's modest apartment, an echo of quiet resilience in the heart of Atlanta. She sits at her small wooden table, sorting through letters from home. Each envelope carries the scent of memory, the hum of Lagos still alive within them. Her younger brother's handwriting trembles with hope. Her mother's words, inked in soft blue, whisper prayers across an ocean. Amara closes her eyes, remembering a life before this one, a life of ambition, study, and purpose. The sound of rain tapping on her window fades into the laughter of her past. Flashback. The camera drifts through Lagos, the city of her beginnings. Amara's laughter fills the air, confident and free. She walks across a university courtyard with papers in her arms, surrounded by students debating economics and change. Her accent once symbolized belonging, not mockery. Then comes the memory she cannot forget. Her father in handcuffs, his face calm but resolute as police cars wail through the night. He had spoken truth to power and paid the price. That was the day she stopped believing. Justice came easily. Back in the present, Amara stands before her bathroom mirror, adjusting her uniform collar. Her reflection blurs with fatigue. For a moment, she whispers to herself, "You are not invisible." The accent that was once ridiculed feels like an anthem now, soft, strong, and distinctly hers. Outside, thunder murmurs like a reminder. Storms can cleanse as much as they destroy. She picks up her purse and leaves, stepping into the rain. At the Monarch Room, Rosa spots Amara entering with her usual calm. The morning shift hums softly. Empty tables, the scent of lemon polish and brewed coffee. Rosa leans over the counter, teasing, "You look like you've been thinking too much again." Amara chuckles faintly. Beneath the humor, Rosa's eyes show concern. The two women share a look that says more than words ever could. We endure together. Later, as she polishes glasses near the bar, Amara hears Charles' name whispered among the staff. He's scheduled to dine again tonight. A flicker of dread rises, but is met with something stronger. Clarity. The memory of her father, of her homeland, of the truth buried beneath luxury. All of it fuses into purpose. She realizes that her silence has protected no one. The world will not change unless she does. The evening hum returns like a familiar ghost. Amara glides through the monarch room with mechanical grace, but her eyes are sharp, observing, listening. Charles Whitmore is back, this time seated in the private lounge, his voice rising above laughter and crystal. He speaks carelessly, unaware of the storm forming in the space between his words. "Africa's good for business," he jokes to a partner. "Cheap labor, no questions." Amara freezes behind the curtain, tray trembling slightly. That phrase, those words, rip through memory like glass. She remembers her father's files, the mining scandal, the stolen land. Suddenly, it all aligns. Charles' company had swallowed the firm she once worked for in Lagos. Her breath catches. Fate has delivered him to her table again, but this time she's not just a waitress, she's a witness. Later that night, in the quiet of the back office, Amara opens her worn leather bag. Inside lie old documents, contracts, reports, names. She had kept them for years. Remnants of a world she once navigated as a professional, not a servant. The letterhead bears a name that now appears on Charles' corporate holdings. Her chest tightens as she realizes he profited from the same corruption that forced her to flee. Every humiliation, every insult, now has a name, a face, a billion-dollar empire built on the suffering of her people. She takes the evidence to Elijah in the kitchen after closing. Steam rises from simmering pots, fogging the windows. "It's him," she whispers, showing him the papers. Elijah reads in silence, his jaw tightening. "You need to be careful, Amara," he warns, his deep voice echoing under the hum of industrial lights. "Men like that don't play fair." She nods, resolve settling into her bones. Then, it's time someone did. In the hallway, Rosa catches Amara's arm. "You're not thinking of confronting him, are you?" she asks, eyes wide. Amara hesitates, then meets her gaze. "I'm thinking of telling the truth," Rosa exhales sharply. "Girl, truth don't feed us." Amara smiles faintly. "No, but it frees us." The two women stand in silence, the hum of the refrigerator filling the space where fear lingers, but courage grows. Later that night, as the city sleeps, Amara walks home alone. Rain falls softly, coating the streets in silver sheen. She clutches her bag close, filled with proof that could bring an empire down. But as she crosses Peachtree Street, fear begins to whisper. What if he silences her too? She stops beneath a street lamp, water dripping from her hair, her reflection fractured in puddles. Then she hears her father's voice, faint but steady. "Truth does not beg for permission, my daughter." Her shoulders lift. The rain feels lighter now. Morning sunlight bleeds through the kitchen blinds, streaking gold across steel countertops. Amara stands beside Elijah, the weight of truth pressing against her chest. She slept little, but her eyes are clear, unwavering. Elijah breaks the silence first. "If you do this, there's no going back." She exhales slowly. "There was no going back the night he laughed at me." He nods, recognizing the unshakable tone in her voice. The same one he once heard in his own when he fought for a living wage decades ago. Their unspoken bond stretches across generations, tied by the will to stand tall in the fire. During a lull before service, Amara gathers Rosa and 2 other staff members in the break room. "I have proof," she whispers, unfolding the documents. "Charles Whitmore's company destroyed entire communities in Nigeria." "My community." Rosa's jaw tightens. "You're serious?" Amara nods. The others exchange looks, fear mixed with awe. Rosa crosses her arms. "If you speak up, I'll back you." Amara meets her friend's eyes. "Then we speak together." That evening, Charles returns, his laughter echoing through the dining room like a crack in glass. Amara moves with precise calm, refilling glasses and clearing plates, her silence now deliberate. When she passes behind him, she hears him boasting about a new acquisition in West Africa. Each syllable is a spark against her resolve. Rosa watches from across the room, heart pounding. She knows the moment is coming when silence will no longer be an option. Later in the staff corridor, Amara presses her back against the wall, breathing deeply. The noise of the dining room fades behind her. She pulls out her phone, scanning through old photos. Images of her father standing before a protest crowd, her family home before the mine poisoned the river. Each image reignites her purpose. "He will know my voice," she murmurs. Her accent, once mocked, feels like thunder waiting for release. Amara walks out into the rain after closing, thunder rolling over Atlanta's skyline. She clutches her phone and the folder of evidence close to her heart. The storm mirrors the fury she's carried for years. Finally, given voice. Her reflection glimmers in puddles, her steps deliberate, unstoppable. "Tomorrow," she whispers into the wind, "he will hear me." The lightning flashes, illuminating her silhouette like a herald of reckoning. The evening begins like any other. Polished silver, murmured greetings, and the illusion of civility. But tonight, Amara's pulse thrums with purpose. She glides through the monarch room like a woman reborn. Charles Whitmore sits at his usual table near the window, a glass of bourbon in hand, laughter rumbling through his entourage. When their eyes meet, something electric passes between them. Unspoken recognition, unfinished business. He smirks, unaware that the ground beneath him is about to give way. As she approaches his table, Charles offers a mock smile. "Well, if it isn't my favorite waitress with the world's thickest accent." He sneers, his friends laughing politely. Amara sets down his drink, her hand steady. "Sir," she begins softly, her voice carrying calm authority. "Your company once owned Brightstone Holdings, didn't it?" He pauses mid-laugh. "Yes, why?" Her eyes meet his. "Because Brightstone destroyed my village." Silence grips the room. Every fork, every breath halts. Her accent, once ridiculed, now lands like judgment itself. Amara's words cut through the silence like a blade wrapped in grace. "Your mines poisoned the water my people drank. Your profits buried our homes." Charles stammers, his face paling. You have no idea what you're talking about." She reaches into her apron, pulling out folded papers, evidence she's carried like a secret heart. "I worked for your firm before you swallowed it whole." "I know exactly what I'm talking about." A gasp ripples through the diners. Rosa appears near the kitchen door, eyes wet, her hand over her mouth. Charles's jaw tightens. "You're just a waitress," he spits, desperation cracking his polished veneer. Amara steps closer, her voice calm but thunderous in spirit. "I was an economist, a daughter, a believer in truth. You mocked my voice because it reminded you of everything you try to forget." The entire room holds its breath. Then Sylvia Whitmore rises from her seat at a nearby table, her voice trembling but steady. "Charles, is it true?" He doesn't answer. The silence becomes its own confession. The moment stretches, sacred and electric. Amara breathes deeply, her voice trembling not from fear but from the weight of release. "You mocked my accent," she says softly, but this voice has outlasted empires. She sets the documents on the table and turns away. No applause follows, only silence heavy with revelation. As she walks toward the exit, every head turns to watch her go. In her wake, Charles stares down at the papers, his reflection warped in spilled bourbon. For the first time in his life, he cannot laugh. Morning breaks cold and gray over Atlanta. The city hums with whispers. Newspapers and news feeds light up with headlines. Whitmore Industries under investigation for African labor scandal. Amara's name is nowhere in the reports, yet her spirit threads through every word. At her kitchen table, she scrolls through the story on her phone, watching truth move through the world like wildfire. She doesn't smile. She exhales, steady and slow, as though the air finally belongs to her again. Meanwhile, chaos brews in Charles Whitmore's penthouse. Reporters swarm outside. Sylvia stands by the floor-to-ceiling windows, her back to him. "You lied to everyone," she says quietly. "To me, to yourself." Charles paces, eyes hollow. "It's business," he mutters. "It was never personal." She turns, voice trembling but resolute. "Everything is personal when it destroys lives." She walks out, her heels echoing like judgment through marble halls. Charles sinks into his leather chair, a man surrounded by his own silence. At the Monarch Room, life continues, but everything feels different. Some customers whisper Amara's name with reverence, others with discomfort. Rosa greets her at the door, grinning through tears. "You did it," she whispers. Amara smiles softly. "No, we did." Elijah watches from the kitchen, pride etched into every line of his weathered face. The air smells of fresh bread, coffee, and freedom. Outside, cameras flash as Charles exits a courthouse, his expression hollow. Journalists shout questions. "Did you know about the exploitation?" But his answers stumble into the noise. Each flash burns the illusion of power from his face. He sees himself reflected in their lenses, not as a billionaire, but as a man stripped bare by truth. His car door closes, and in that metallic click lies the sound of downfall. That night, Amara returns home and lights a single candle on her windowsill. Outside, the city buzzes with storms of media and conversation. But her apartment is quiet, still, sacred. She whispers a prayer in Igbo, her mother's words from long ago. Truth walks slowly but never loses its way. For the first time in years, she allows herself to cry, not in pain, but in peace. Her tears shimmer in the candlelight, her accent humming like a lullaby to her own freedom. Months have passed. The world has shifted. Amara stands backstage at an international ethics conference in Washington, D.C., wearing a tailored navy dress that mirrors her composure. Her name flashes across the event program. Amara Nushu, advocate for corporate justice. She hears murmurs from the audience beyond the curtain, journalists, activists, and dignitaries who have come to hear the story that shook an empire. She grips the small pendant around her neck, a keepsake from her mother, and breathes deeply. The woman who once served tables now prepares to serve truth to the world. As she steps onto the stage, the audience rises in applause. Amara pauses at the podium, letting the sound wash over her, not as validation, but as a reminder that her voice has finally reached the world. "When I first came to this country," she begins, "I believed silence was survival, but silence feeds injustice. My accent was mocked because it carried truth across oceans, and today I speak not for myself, but for every voice denied its dignity." The crowd listens, breathless. Meanwhile, miles away, Charles Whitmore watches her speech on television in his modest rental apartment. The empire he once ruled has been dismantled, his fortune diminished to fragments. He sits alone, unshaven, eyes hollow yet transfixed. On the screen, Amar's words pierce through the silence of his living room. For the first time, he doesn't hear her accent, only truth. A single tear falls, whether from regret or awakening, even he cannot tell. Backstage, after the speech, journalists crowd around Amara. She smiles politely, answering each question with humility. Elijah and Rosa stand a few steps away, watching proudly. "You did it," Rosa says softly. Elijah nods, his deep voice resonant. "She didn't just do it. She changed it." The three share a quiet look, an unspoken acknowledgement of how far they've come from that night at the Monarch Room. That night, Amara walks through Atlanta once more, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. She stops outside the Monarch Room. Through the glass, she sees new faces, servers laughing softly, guests eating peacefully. She smiles, not with bitterness, but with understanding. The world doesn't change overnight, but voices can echo through generations. She whispers into the night, "My name means grace." And grace is not weakness, it's the power to rise again. Then she turns away, her reflection blending with the lights as she walks into a future she's finally claimed.